So a few introductions first. My name's Andy French. I am English. I live in Germany, and I'm delighted to be here in the Netherlands today. I am a European. Brexit. No. Thank you. I work for a company called Object First. This is not a sales pitch, right? So I'm not going to push what we do and say, hey, look at all these great features. That's not what I'm here to do. What I am going to do is to talk about the zero trust model and why we at Object First think that it needs to evolve. It's good, but not good enough. The clue is in the title. And I'm also going to introduce a very special guest star towards the end, who's one of our customers, who's going to tell us a little bit about how this all works in practice. So, but first, I want to do a little bit of scene setting. And the first part of this is going to be some statistics from various bits of research that we've done and that we've lifted from Veeam as well, to look at what is happening in the cybersecurity market, or rather what is happening for customers in terms of ransomware attacks and the impact of them and how often they're happening. So these are the three sources that I'm going to look at. First one is some research from a consultancy called ESG, which was performed this year with participants from North America and various countries in EMEA. And the second is the excellent Veeam Ransomware Trends report, which is carried out every year and has some wonderful insights into attacks and what the impacts are. And then the third one is really hot off the press, and it's some research that we did at Object First, looking more at mental health issues in IT departments and the impact of cybersecurity incidents on mental health. So let's take a look at some of these numbers first. So first of all, a horrible, scary number. How many organizations are suffering ransomware attacks? And our research found, and this is also consistent with the kind of numbers that Veeam find, that the majority of organizations suffer at least one ransomware attack. 66% suffered at least one. And of those, the majority suffered more than once. So, not content to get you once, the gangs will have another go and try and get you again. And maybe the 34% who hadn't been attacked just didn't know yet. Maybe, who knows. And when those attacks happen, what are the cyber criminals doing? They're going straight after the backups. So only 4% of the case did they not go after the backups. And the reason is kind of obvious, because if you've got backups that you can recover from, you're far less likely to pay the ransom. If you cripple the backups, then the business is not going to be able to recover. And now let's take a look at how long does it take to recover after a ransomware attack. And less than 50% can recover in a business week. Okay, so there's a lucky few, the 10% in the top right here, who could recover within a business day. But for everybody else, the clock is ticking, and every moment that your business is not running or all of your systems are not running, it's lost money, it's increased stress, it's lost productivity. And I'll be talking to my special guest about this a little bit later to put that into perspective. And then there's the reputation of your business, of course. All right, so that's how long it might take to recover. But how much data can you actually recover? And what we found was that 25% of the businesses that had been attacked could only recover half of their data or less. And if you think about what not having half of your data looks like, it's disastrous. So even if you get back to being operational, you're not operational at the proper level. All right, and now to pivot to that mental health question that I was talking about previously. So a lot of the data available in different surveys really focuses on the cost and the time impact and all of that stuff. But what about the impact on IT teams? Well, cybersecurity incidents absolutely have a serious and negative impact. So IT teams feel uncomfortably stressed about cybersecurity incidents. The vast majority of them are scared that when something happens, they're going to have the finger pointed squarely at them, even if it's not their fault. So they've got real pressure there. And then, perhaps not surprisingly, nearly 60% are already looking for new jobs or are considering it because of the threats of ransomware attacks and the pressures that it puts on them. And then there's another factor, which is that 3/4 of those professionals that we talked to said that the tools that they have to recover after an attack are too complex. All right, now if you put those last two figures together, the guys and gals that are looking for a new job because they hate the stress and they worry about the risk of ransomware attacks, so they're looking for new jobs, and the tools that they have to recover are too complex, that's a really toxic mix, and it leads to key person dependencies, and if your people have left and you have an attack and you have to restore, who's going to restore it? So it's a dangerous position. Sorry, this is a really cheerful presentation, isn't it? There is hope. There is hope. Stay with me. Okay, another slightly miserable statistic, sorry. When theory meets reality. So, and this is from the latest Veeam ransomware report. So Veeam asked IT decision makers, those in charge of backup and recovery, ultimately, how confident are you that you could recover in the event of a ransomware attack? And they asked that question before there was a ransomware attack and again after a ransomware attack. And perhaps not surprisingly, the confidence in being able to recover dropped by 20%. So having been through an attack, a lot of IT people responsible, their confidence dropped. They thought, actually, we're not as prepared as we thought we were. So the key takeaways from this first part, that cyber attacks, okay, it's when, not if. I think you've heard that already today and many times already. That backups are in the crosswires. They are absolutely at high risk. An attack can cause huge disruption to business, not just in monetary terms, but also including the ability to retain staff and keep their stress levels manageable. Organizations may not be as prepared as they think they are, and finally, the technology and the tools might not be up to the job. Okay, so that's all the bad stuff. Data resilience is obviously needed. Data is the lifeblood of any organization. If you lose your data, pretty much you lose your business. So how do we approach that? Is there a model that can do that? So the first thing is, let's take a look at zero trust. And zero trust was a huge step forward 15 years ago when Forrester Research proposed this model. And it was a move away from the old approach of, okay, I'm going to patrol my perimeter and try and keep the bad guys out. There was a realization, in the end, that's not going to work, right? Somebody is going to get in. So zero trust, big leap forward, and 3 key principles here. So the first one is assume breach. Right, somebody is going to get in. So the thing that you do is that you then segment everything in your systems so that when somebody does get in, they can't move sideways, or at least not so easily. So that's the first thing. And here we've got an example. You could put your 4 different systems as you see there. But there is a problem here, which I'll come to in just a moment. The second part is that every time somebody wants to access one of those segments, you verify them explicitly. So you use MFA, you use identity access management, you let them in or you don't, case-by-case basis. And then the third thing is that you use least privilege access. You give people just enough access to do the job that they need to do, and just enough time to do it. Now, I know this because Object First forces me to sign into Office about every 2 days, which is great security practice, but it's a pain in the butt. But, we're safe. Okay, so those are the 3 key principles of Zero Trust. But there is an issue which hasn't come up here. There is an issue which is about segment 4 here. So segment 4 is the backup infrastructure, and it's all in one segment. So if your backup software and your backup storage are in a single segment and somebody infiltrates that, then your backups are gone. They're toast. So this is one reason why we say Zero Trust is good, but it's not good enough. So then, extending that, knowing that it wasn't quite good enough, Veeam and Numberline Security teamed up to develop the model so that it specifically addressed the backup use case. And so they extended those 3 principles to 3 more. So firstly, as I mentioned, segment the backup storage from the backup software. So that adds a layer of resilience. More resilience by making sure that instead of having all of your backups, all of your data eggs in one basket, you have different layers of resilience. So you have a backup over here, a backup over here. And then the third point is immutable backup storage. So storage that will not allow you to delete your backups. So those are the 3 principles of ZTDR, which seem to be in here twice. There we go. Okay, so what might that look like in a backup architecture? And so this is all very, we've got no brand names in here, but I'll just talk you through how this all works. So over on the left-hand side, we've got the production system, probably a mix of on-prem and cloud. You've got your backup software, which has to deal with all of the different interfaces that your production system is going to be sending at it. And so together, there's a huge attack surface there. Think about all of the attack surfaces in your production data, all of those, password access and God knows what to this system and that system. And then also all of those different transports going into your backup software. So that's dangerous, but it can be handled with a multi-layer cyber resilience approach with various tools like we can see in the exhibition space downstairs. Okay, but then back onto the storage itself. So you can see that we've got 2 levels of storage. We've got a kind of a performance tier and a capacity tier here. And we're talking about S3 storage, which has a very, very small attack surface. And I'll talk a little bit more about S3 in a moment. So this kind of system of having minimal attack surface where you can, separating out your backup storage and your backup software is all going in the right direction. And we also talk here about zero access to perform destructive actions. And that's the immutability bit that we'll come on to in a moment. So all of Veeam's best practice talks about 32110, which extends 321 with a couple of extra elements at the end. So I think most people are familiar with 3 copies of data, 2 different media types, and 1 copy off-site. But the extra 2 are 1 copy that should be immutable or air-gapped. But the thing about air-gapping is that it means you can't test it so easily, right? Tape's kind of good, but difficult to run a tabletop recovery exercise. And that's the 0 at the end, 0 errors or failures. You have to be able to check it and make sure that when the crunch comes, you can restore that data. So I'm now going to talk about immutability or absolute immutability. So a lot of vendors talk about immutability, meaning, yeah, you can't delete the data on our backup appliance or in our backup system. But the point is, if anybody has the rights to override an administrator or grant privileges that could, for example, allow somebody to do a factory reset, it's not absolutely immutable. There is the possibility that somebody could have credentials, give them to somebody else or themselves, and then go and wipe those backups. So absolute immutability means that it doesn't matter who you are or what privileges you have, you cannot delete the backups unless you have physical access to the server and go and bash it with a hammer. We can't really help with that. So how do you achieve absolute immutability? I'll cover this really quickly because I want to get on to the more important bit. 3 things. S3 object storage, it has immutability baked into the infrastructure, and it allows object lock and all of those classic features. 0 time to immutability, so don't write it to a temporary landing zone and leave it there so that you can restore quickly and then write it to a dedupe appliance, because when it's sitting on that landing zone, it's vulnerable. Don't take snapshots of it before it's written to immutability because it remains vulnerable during that time frame. And then the third thing is a purpose-built target appliance. So a box that is built specifically to do that one task, which is to take backup jobs from backup software and to write them securely into a repository. So those are the three things. So then, if you do all of that, it doesn't matter what happens. Worst comes to the worst, you can restore your backups. Okay, so very quickly to revisit this. This is where our solution fits in, but again, this is not a hard sell. We make a immutable, absolutely immutable backup storage appliance specifically made for Veeam, which you can plug into your performance tier, but you could also use it in your capacity tier. Or you could do your secondary backups to a cloud provider or however you want to do it. But this is what we do. Now, at this point, I'm going to introduce my special guest star, Peter. Come on up, Peter.
Shall I do it in Dutch or in English?
Oh, I'd rather you did it in English, then I know that you're not saying horrible things about me.
I can. No, I will introduce myself. Peter, already for almost 30 years in the IT. Started at the bomb squad in Culemborg as a army professional. Then I went to O'Neill, Hitachi, Jack Links, and that nobody knows, almost nobody knows Jack Links, but that's Visie, the sausage. And now I'm working at the SMC. So.
Very good. And Peter, I know that, so firstly, apologies for mangling the pronunciation of your name. I will call you Peter if that's okay. Peter? Okay, okay, cool. I know you've been, in previous lives, you've been through a couple of ransomware attacks. How does that relate to the kind of numbers that I talked about earlier in terms of, for example, how much backup data you were able to restore and how long it took to restore that data?
So it's not nice to talk about ransomware attacks in a company, but when I worked at Jack Links on a Sunday, I was called, and suddenly we did not have anything, and everybody was moving over screens, and somebody saw it, and then you have an attack, and we were able to recover only, I don't know exactly the amount of data that we missed or that we recovered, but I know that it took more than 3 weeks to recover completely. So the first 3 weeks we were not able to send invoices, we could not receive anything in the US, by the way. I will tell a little bit about Germany because that's where the factory is. In the factory we were able to recover everything and faster than the US because we had a separated network for our factory. So if you talk about zero trust, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So not all data from the US, but at least 3 to 4 weeks it took us to recover, and maybe even a little bit longer for something that was not necessary. But the production went back on after 3 weeks.
And so I talked in the numbers about how much data could be recovered and how long it would take, but also about the impact on the IT team in terms of stress. So you've probably just about got over this now, but can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I worked 36 hours in a row, so to make sure that we were able to ship. So then you have a lot of stress as well, and not only for me, but for everybody in the team, because everybody's starting, I want to do this, I need that file, that's so important, I need we need to start invoicing, we need to start shipping. As example, in the factory at Visie, we were not able to ship for almost a week, and then you saw suddenly that the factory was becoming full. Then we started to do manual processes. We were lucky in that factory because we had already stock in our systems over there, separated system, so that we could at least produce. Because if that factory is going down and you are not able to... het wasje te laten roken, dus je moet hem roken, dat wasje. I don't know how to say it
That's okay.
in English.
I trust you.
I was talking about you, Andy. No, but so we were not able to do that. And then, yeah, you have a big problem. If that one is going down, it takes maybe a week to start up again in a factory. So, yeah, a lot of stress. And everybody is important.
So you've got top management coming down on you. You've got people from the floor. You've got every direction.
Suppliers, sales, everybody is... I know. I hate it to start to talk like this, but no, everybody is coming to you, and then yeah, how can you make the right calls and see what is the first thing that you need to do?
Okay, so Peter, as I said, is one of our customers. Peter, would you just briefly tell us why you chose Object First to handle your backups? Your Veeam backups.
I need to laugh because, yeah, my wife is working at Object First. I will be honest.
Full disclosure.
But that's not the thing. But she was working for another company as well, and I think that was too high for us. So we are not a small company, but we are an independent company that needs to take care of about itself, and yeah.
Something about
it is simple,
yep.
And that's proven because we were able to do it in maybe 15 minutes. The installation, so pretty simple, straightforward. We took a little bit longer time for it because we also documented how you do it. So it took us maybe 2 hours because that guy was not that fast, but it was me myself. So. We are protected, and with that I mean it's tested, not by us, but by also companies that have a name like Fox IT or those kind of companies. Yeah, now we are compliant because I'm starting to work on ISO 27001, and one of the things that we need to do is the zero immutability and all those kind of things that we need to think about that one. So yeah, I think. Pretty straightforward, and even the price was good. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so compliance adds another layer of stress on the whole thing. I mean, compliance it's useful and it's there for a good reason, but it's another thing to take care of.
And I've got one main reason why I didn't do it is because I did get an offer for a third-party. How do you call it? Doos, zal ik maar even zeggen. I will say box, but because that one I needed to do the maintenance myself. How can I trust it that it's not being hacked? I needed to update Linux, I needed to update other software, all those kind of things. And I thought, yeah, then I go again, I do everything myself. It was maybe 20-30% cheaper. And then I made a calculation and I was thinking, yeah, why are we not spending that extra money in a company that knows what they are doing? It's connected to Veeam. We are a Veeam company, so not a company, but we are using Veeam already for 6-7 years. So yeah, I think that was a no-brainer for me when I saw everything together. So.
Cool. So that complexity piece, which comes back to what I was talking about earlier, that if the teams feel that the tools they have are too complex, that adds to the stress itself. And as you would, I was almost feeling the stress coming off you as you were describing.
I'm sweating because this is something I don't like, but
when
you're at home, you need to go and do some things.
Yeah. I thought maybe it was about the thought of having to patch Linux all the time, but yeah, because we do all of that. Okay, and then so finally, what would you say is the impact that implementing absolutely immutable backup storage from Object First has had on you and on the business?
Simple, I can sleep.
That's good. You can sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's all we need to say. Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bit of round of applause for Peter, please. Thank you. Okay, so just to very, very quickly round up now, this is the solution that we do. Please come and see us. We do one thing, and we do one thing very, very well, and that is to create absolutely immutable backup storage for Veeam. Our company was founded by the two original founders of Veeam, who are very well known to some of the people in the audience, I know. And this was their next project to create the best storage for Veeam. So it covers those points that Peter was talking about. It's secure, it's simple, it's powerful. So please, I've got 1 minute left, going to finish early. Please come and see us at our booth downstairs. We've got Dutch-speaking technical resource if you want to get techie. We've got Dutch-speaking non-technical resource if you want to talk commercial stuff. We've got everybody. And we've got English-speaking and a bit of German if you want. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and look forward to talking to you downstairs. Thank you.